Speaking of West Virginia, they lost on Saturday at home to Oklahoma State. So I'm gonna allow you to say what you got to say about your Mountaineers, and then I can talk a little bit about Oklahoma State because I could not be more impressed with Mike Boynton and what he's doing with that team.
Yeah, just like I believe I text you. I might have texted you during the game talking about Coach. Like that's an amazing job to go in there and beat and beat West Virginia, who's fine, no problems at the moment, and you're down two of your best ball handlers and players. Like that was an amazing game. Avery Anderson played out of his mind. Um, I was disappointed that our guys we lacked the energy to do certain things in the game. It looked like, and a team who doesn't have their best players decided to step up and get the extra loose balls and get those offensive rebounds and box out and get extra possessions and beat the Mountaineers at home. I mean, and we talked about consistency before with as far as defensively and offensively, and also just offensively individual players being a little bit more consistent. You started to see a little bit of that going into the second half of that game. So,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
the better team won.
it really stood out to me. Just kind of like the effort plays, the things that you always just take for granted that West Virginia is going to do. The ones that really stood out was there was probably 4 offensive rebounds in the second half where that Oklahoma State got after the ball hit the floor, right? Like that should, to me, that should be unacceptable. If you're the defensive team, 4 different times the ball hits the floor and the other team gets the offensive rebound, like that should not be something that happens.
Nah.
There were at least 3 times that I noticed where West Virginia just completely failed to get back in transition against Oklahoma State, and that's like, again, that's an effort thing. Those are the things that you can control. To me, you can't control Sean McNeil happening to have an off night and Derek Culver not playing his best because of something that Oklahoma State does defensively, or Miles McBride like making a couple of silly turnovers on entry passes, right? Like those are the things that are going to happen during the course of a game and happen over the course of a season and happen as a result of something that Oklahoma State does defensively.
Yeah.
What you can control is whether or not you get back in those transitions, whether or not you get to those loose balls first, the hustle stuff, the effort stuff. And to me, that wasn't there for West Virginia. And it was a little bit jarring to see that happen. You know, that's not the West Virginia that I've come to expect out of a Bob Huggins team. So
Yeah.
I am sure, and you can probably attest to this, I am sure that is getting run out of them this week.
Yeah, I'm sure something is. To agree with you, that's just not what you would consider a Bob Huggins team's MO to be. And well, we know what their MO is, and the effort they showed, it didn't seem like that was the case. And it was a big night. I kind of feel it was big for West Virginia actually to win a game while they're in the top 10, which is something like they got close to about like 2 or 3 times this season, and then they fall out of the ring because they lose the game when they get near the area. So you have that scenario. We have Coach Huggins' 900th win, and you have one of the guys, and Derek Culver is getting 1,000 points, and an opportunity of a 3 seed for the NCAA tournament as well. Like, you know, being one of those top.
Look, I thought if they
had a chance.
If they made a run and won out, they could have gotten a number 1 seed.
Like, exactly, it's very possible.
Illinois could have made it so impossible. But
yeah,
if they had won out, there was a chance that they could have gotten a 1 seed.
Yeah, you can apply some pressure, but that's not the case now.
Yeah. So obviously we discussed West Virginia here first because we have a former West Virginia player on the podcast. So it only makes sense to talk about them first. But I think you have to give just an unbelievable amount of credit to Mike Boynton and the job that he's done with that team. The fact that you can go without Cade Cunningham and Ice Likely in a game on the road against a top 10 team and go out and win that game and have a guy whose career high was 17 points go and drop 31 and have your role players step up and make big shots and make big plays. And most importantly, be ready for the moment. Like to me, that was the thing that really stood out. Like I don't think I was ever going to I'm not going to doubt like whether or not a Mike Boynton team is going to show up ready to play at this point. You just kind of accept that. Yes, they're going to be ready to play. I'm not going to doubt whether or not Mike's going to come up with a good game plan, because like at this point, you just kind of accept that he's going to do something smart. And the smart thing he did against West Virginia was just go to a matchup zone that really seemed to kind of take them out of their rhythm and frustrate them. Like, it felt like they got a lot more stuff out of transition than they did. And if Oklahoma State kept them in the half court, West Virginia looked like they were going to have trouble scoring every possession. That Oklahoma State did that. So you got to give Mike Boynton credit there. You just, at this point, have come to expect it from him. But the fact that he had guys that had never been in that moment,
facts,
that were ready to step up and thrive in that moment, like that's impressive to me, man. Like Avery Anderson coming out and putting up 31, like that is really impressive. And another thing that really stood out, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but on the bench during that game, Cade Cunningham was going nuts.
Yeah,
like he was celebrating like he was a walk-on for every play. Like he was doing like the three goggles and like all the celebrations that you would expect, like the guy that's just there to help bring the team's GPA up, like to be doing. Like he was doing all that stuff. And like I know he's a one and done, but I just love the fact that he has fully bought in to like the student athlete experience and to the being a college basketball player. And like, I'm an Oklahoma State Cowboy through and through. Even I'm going to be here for 10 months, but I am an Oklahoma State Cowboy through and through. And like, it's fun to see a kid like have that much fun playing. Right. And even when he's not playing, because there's a lot of guys where if you're out, right, and your team goes on to win, there are going to be people that say like, well, why are they looking better without you? What's the problem? Why is this happening? We saw it happen with Io went out and everyone was like, well, maybe they should be playing Andre Curbelo more minutes. Like, no, they just happen to have a really good game plan on a night where Michigan didn't play well. Io happened to be out. So to see him celebrate the way he did was awesome. And I was texting with Mike after the game, and he was like, I said to him, I was like, I loved seeing the way that Cade celebrated. And he basically said, like, he's the best teammate like that you can ask for. He takes pride in being unselfish. That's what Mike said. He takes pride in being called unselfish. And you can see that. Like he's just a winner that is fully bought in. And when your star is fully bought in like that, I think it lifts everybody else up in the program. And the last thing on my rant before I let you say something about Oklahoma State is that I made this point a couple times, but the analytically inclined will tell you that when you win a whole bunch of close games like this, like there's an element of luck that's involved, right? When you win a bunch of games on buzzer beaters, like eventually those buzzer beaters are going to stop going in. Like you can't, you expect to hit a buzzer beater, what, like 40% of the time, something like that. Let's just say 40%. You hit 3 in a row. Well, the next one, you're still going to have a 40% chance of hitting it. So over time, that's going to end up evening out, and you're probably not quite as good as what your record is going to say. Well, to me, Oklahoma State, the fact that they've been in all these close games, they're battle tested, they're confident in those moments, and they have probably the best closer, maybe the second best closer to Io in all of college basketball, and Cade Cunningham. So I'm fully bought in on this. Like I legitimately think that Oklahoma State is a team that can get to a Final Four. Maybe I'm just overstating it. Maybe I'm just caught up in the moment, but I think that this is a team that can get to a Final Four.
I don't know about the Final Four, but I'm kind of bought in on Oklahoma State as well. Just looking back to when we first started talking about teams in the preseason, this team was picked 7th in the Big 12 due to losing a bunch of players, having a bunch of guys who've never been there before, like we just said. And, I mean, they had NCAA stuff looming over their head as well. So you have to think, like, everybody from the beginning of the season till now has counted them out until obviously we get to mid-season and everybody sees how well they start doing and they get, I want to say bandwagon, but, you know, people start to pay attention a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Like this team was picked to finish 7th and they're supposed to be like one of these teams that you can walk on in the conference, but instead they turned themselves into a team that made the conference even stronger this year, adding another Big 12 team to the NCAA tournament. Like, Wiggins has done a great job. And just even watching this past game against WVU, and you can tell, like, these are scenarios where you lose 2 of your best players where guys are looking forward to stepping up. Some people don't. These guys stepped up big time. Won their 4th or 5th ranked game, like in the last, like, out of 6 games. played. Like I feel like this is a very good team. This is a team that can cause a ton of mismatches in the tournament, Big 12 and in the NCAA. Like they're not very big, but they're scrappy. They play hard, and they got one of the best players in the country on their team. So I can't really count them out of a Final Four. I don't see it. I think I can see them Sweet 16, possible Elite Eight, depending on their matchup. But like when you have one of the best players in the country on your team, the number one draft pick, basically, it's like it's nothing that's not possible with Cade on the court.
And look, the knock on them all year has been where's their supporting cast? Well,
yeah,
Avery Anderson, if you need to, can go for 31. Ice Likely has played for the USA national teams before. The Boone brothers, like I'm not even going to bother trying to keep them straight because I am never going to be able to. Like the Boones and the Champagnes, like I'm never going to be able to keep them straight. So I'm just not even going to bother trying. But the Boone brothers are really good. But like the guy that's the big guy was really good in the paint, and the guy that shoots threes, the Boone that shoots threes, made a bunch of threes. Like what else can you ask for?
Moncrief had a good game.
And again,
like they had a lot of guys that did well, man.
Yeah, I mean that's big. That's really, really big. So when you have the best player on the floor, you got a bunch of role guys that can step up and thrive in the moment, and you're battle tested. Like they've played 4 overtime games, right? 4 of their 7 losses have been by 1 possession. All they do is play close games. I swear,
exactly.
Every time an Oklahoma State game is on, and I flip to it in the last 5 minutes, like it's close. Every single one. Every single time I've watched them. So.
And that's a skill in itself, man. That's a skill in itself. Being able to win close games, or like know that when you're in close games, like we definitely still have a chance of winning. Some teams can't even do that when they get down. So
how much? I mean, you've experienced this. Like, how much of that is confidence? How much of that is belief in execution? How much of that is coaching? Like, where does that come from?
Honestly, I feel like it's all of those things you just mentioned in one. I mean, you got to see it happen once to believe it. And then once you see it, then you have faith in that. And if you were to get down, that you can come back. And obviously coaching comes into effect as well, depending on how much your coach stresses, how much he believes in you and feels that you guys can do those things. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, just seeing it is believing. It just takes, and they've had that opportunity this season to see it, and they know they're right there and they can beat any team coming back, being up or being down.